The text arrived while I was still holding my bouquet. White roses in one hand. My husband's ring on the other. Mascara barely dry from tears of joy. Music still drifting through the church doors. Guests are laughing somewhere behind me. And on the glowing screen of my phone, 7 words that turn celebration into ice. You're fired. Think of it as my wedding gift to you. Asterisk asterisk. For one suspended second, the world split in two. There was the woman I had been moments earlier. Newly married, hopeful, glowing, stepping into a future built on love. And there was the woman staring at that message now, realizing someone had waited for the happiest moment of her life just to wound her. I read it again, then again, as if repetition might make it less cruel, less deliberate, less real. It was from Tate Lawson, my boss, my tormentor, the entitled son of the owner of Crescent Design Studio, the man who had spent the last 3 months trying to diminish me in every room I entered. And he had chosen my wedding day to finish what he'd started. My knees nearly buckled beneath layers of satin and lace. I leaned against the marble wall in the church foyer, bouquet trembling in my grip. Somewhere beyond the doors, my guests were waiting to celebrate me. My husband was probably wondering where I'd gone. I should have cried. I should have screamed. Instead, I stood there in numb silence, feeling something colder than pain. Humiliation. As Tate hadn't just fired me. He had tried to stain the most beautiful day of my life. I found Karen near the side corridor speaking with his uncle. He saw my face and excused himself immediately. What happened? He asked softly. I handed him the phone. He read the message once. His jaw tightened, but then to my complete confusion he smiled. Slow, calm, almost satisfied. Not amused, not dismissive, certain. He took my shaking hands in his, kissed my knuckles and said, Put the phone away. Karen, I just lost my. Put it away, he repeated gently. Today belongs to us. Let tomorrow deal with people who deserve tomorrow. How can you be so calm? I whispered. My career is over. He looked directly into my eyes. No, something else is over. Then he tucked the phone into my maid of honor Nima's purse, straightened my veil and held out his arm. Come on, wife. And because there was something steady in him when I was breaking apart, I trusted him. We walked through the grand church doors together into sunlight, cheers, applause, and a shower of rose petals. Everyone saw the bride smiling. No one saw the war beginning behind her eyes. 3 hours later, during our first dance, Nima rushed toward us pale and breathless. Waverly, your phone. It won't stop ringing. Karen's hand tightened around mine. How many calls? I asked. She swallowed. 108 missed calls. I blinked. What? Mostly work. Coworkers. Unknown numbers. And, she lowered her voice, 17 from Gregory Lawson, the owner of Crescent, Tate's father. Suddenly the room sharpened around me. The candlelight. The music. The laughter. All of it distant now. This wasn't a routine firing. Something had gone wrong. Badly wrong. Karen leaned close. Listen to the voicemail. I stepped into the bridal suite and pressed play. Gregory's voice exploded through the speaker, stripped of all executive polish. Waverly, call me immediately. Tate had no authority to terminate you. There's been a catastrophic misunderstanding. We need you back now. Another voicemail. The downtown revitalization files are inaccessible. Another. No one can locate the updated permits. Another. The clients are threatening to pull out. The final message sounded almost broken. Waverly, please. I sat slowly on the velvet chaise in the suite, wedding gown spilling around me like snow. And for the first time since reading Tate's text, I felt something unexpected. Power. Because Crescent Design Studio hadn't fired an employee. They had severed themselves from the only person who knew how their entire machine worked. Me. My name is Waverly Abrams. And before Tate Lawson made the worst mistake of his life, I was the invisible force holding Crescent together. I wasn't glamorous. I wasn't loud. I wasn't the kind of person executives toasted at parties. I was better than that. I was useful. I remembered every project deadline, every contractor preference, every city regulation update, every client complaint, every blueprint revision. I could walk past a workstation and notice the wrong foundation depth on a monitor from 10 feet away. My coworkers joked that I had spreadsheets in my bloodstream. They weren't entirely wrong. I came from a family where excellence wasn't praised. It was expected. My parents were teachers. We didn't have much money, but we had standards. Then my father had a stroke during my first year of college. Overnight, life changed. My mother needed help. Medical bills stacked high enough to become furniture. So I worked nights at a printing shop, attended classes by day, and graduated with honors in project management while everyone else was still recovering from finals week. When Crescent hired me, I treated the job like salvation. Gregory Lawson, the founder, was sharp, demanding, and old school. But unlike many executives, he recognized competence when he saw it. "You think in systems," he told me in my interview. "That's rare." He was right. Within 6 months, I redesigned their internal workflow from the ground up. I created a digital management platform that tracked everything: permits, revisions, budgets, legal approvals, engineering notes, client communications, vendor deadlines. Projects that once dragged for months suddenly moved with precision. Delays dropped. Profits rose. Clients raved. Gregory once told the board, "Hiring Waverly was the smartest move we ever made." Then Tate returned. Tate Lawson was 32 years old and carried himself like a prince in a kingdom he hadn't built. Expensive suits. Perfect hair. Permanent smirk. He had spent years drifting through divisions of his father's company, failing upward with the grace only family money can provide. Marketing, acquisitions, sales, every department eventually handed him back. Then Gregory announced his semi-retirement and named Tate acting director of operations, which made him my boss. The atmosphere changed overnight. Gregory had asked for my opinion. Tate dismissed it. Gregory had praised my work publicly. Tate took credit for it privately. Gregory valued results. Tate valued control. He excluded me from meetings, canceled training sessions for staff, mocked my systems as nerd bureaucracy, and once told a room full of employees, "Waverly mistakes usefulness for importance." I remember the silence that followed. No one defended me. That was the day I understood something painful. People admire competence until it threatens insecure men. I met Karen at the city permit office. He was reviewing one of Crescent's submissions for a major downtown redevelopment project worth millions. Most clerks stamped paperwork without reading it. Karen actually studied every page. "You're missing a drainage compliance attachment," he said without looking up. "No, I'm not." He slid the packet toward me and tapped an empty slot. I checked. He was right. I laughed. "You're annoyingly thorough." He finally looked up. "You say that like it's a flaw." We got coffee the next week. Then dinner. Then Sunday walks. Then the kind of conversations that make time feel irrelevant. Karen was calm where I was intense. Patient where I was rigid. Quietly principled in a world full of noisy vanity. He became the place I exhaled after days spent swallowing anger. 2 months later, he proposed with a simple ring and trembling hands. I said yes before he finished asking. We planned a small wedding quickly. I told people it was practicality. The truth? Some part of me knew my professional life was becoming unstable, and I wanted one thing in my life rooted in certainty. I chose well. Back in the bridal suite, I looked at Karen. "You knew something," I said. He sat beside me carefully, avoiding my dress. "I suspected," he said. "Suspected what?" He exhaled slowly. Some submissions from Crescent had been altered after engineering approval. My blood ran cold. What kind of alterations? Cheaper materials substituted. Safety features removed. Structural load adjustments. Things that should never happen. Who signed them? He met my eyes. "Tate." I stood so fast I nearly tripped over satin. "That's fraud." "It's worse," Karen said. "If built, some of those shortcuts could become dangerous." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was gathering evidence. I wanted facts before accusations." I stared at him, then at my phone full of desperate voicemails, and suddenly everything aligned. Tate had fired me out of spite. But by removing me, he had also removed the only person who could quietly cover the chaos behind his incompetence. And now the company was collapsing under the weight of truth. Karen stood and took my hands again. What do we do? I asked. He smiled faintly. Nothing tonight. We went on our honeymoon to Belize. Turquoise water. Warm wind. Sunsets that looked painted by someone generous. And every day my phone filled with panic from home. Gregory offered to triple my salary. Then profit sharing. Then partial ownership. Then a personal apology. I ignored every message. Karen never pushed me. He simply watched me reclaim silence after years of being available to everyone else. On our third evening, sitting barefoot in the sand, he said, "There's an opening in city planning consulting." I turned to him. Meaning? They need someone who understands how firms manipulate systems. Someone who can design safeguards. I laughed softly. You're trying to recruit me on our honeymoon? I'm trying to remind you that getting fired and getting freed can look similar at first. That sentence changed my life. By the time we flew home, I had written a business plan. 3 days later, I registered Precision Protocol Consulting. My first client was the city. The morning my registration became public, Gregory Lawson called again. This time I answered. Waverly, he said, sounding 10 years older. Thank God. What do you need? The downtown project is dead in the water. We need your help. Name your price. I'm not available for employment. Then we'll hire your firm. I already have a client. Who? The city. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. He understood immediately. If I were helping regulators improve oversight, Tate's past shortcuts would surface quickly. Please, Gregory said quietly. Tate was jealous. Reckless. But I can fix this. No, I replied. You can respond to it. You can't erase it. I hung up. My hands shook afterward, not from fear but from relief. For once I was not reacting. I was choosing. The city audit began 2 weeks later. It found everything. Unauthorized plan changes. Material substitutions. Safety violations. Missing approvals. False certifications. The downtown project was suspended. Crescent lost the contract. Tate was terminated publicly, and his professional license was placed under review. News outlets loved the story. Privileged executive son destroys flagship development through negligence. Gregory vanished from public view. People expected me to celebrate. I didn't. Vindication feels different than revenge. Quieter. Less satisfying than imagined. More final. My real joy came elsewhere. Precision Protocol Consulting grew rapidly. Other municipalities hired me to modernize approval systems. My team expanded from 1 employee to 7, then 12. Karen was promoted for his integrity during the investigation. We bought a fixer-upper house with crooked floors and excellent bones. Life felt earned. Then, exactly 1 year after my wedding, a cream envelope arrived. Inside was a handwritten letter from Gregory Lawson. He apologized, not theatrically, not strategically, but specifically, for enabling Tate, for underestimating me, for confusing loyalty to family with leadership. He wrote that Crescent had restructured entirely. New compliance systems. Independent oversight. No family privilege. And then he asked for one thing. Would I meet with him? Not to return, but to evaluate whether the company had truly changed? I read the letter twice, then handed it to Karen. What do you think? I asked. He considered carefully. Do you want revenge? No. Do you want closure? Maybe. Do you want influence? I looked up. Yes. He smiled. Then you already know. Walking back into Crescent Design Studio felt like entering a house where something terrible once happened. Same lobby. Different air. The receptionist stood when I entered. Employees moved with focused energy instead of tense performance. Screens displayed transparent workflows and compliance dashboards. They had changed, or learned how to appear changed. The conference room door stood open. Inside sat Gregory. And Tate. He looked nothing like the man who had texted me a year earlier. No expensive swagger. No smirk. No polished arrogance. Just a man who seemed to have met consequences and not enjoyed the introduction. Gregory stood. Thank you for coming. I sat across from them. Say what you need to say. Gregory nodded to Tate. Tate swallowed. I was cruel to you, he said. I was threatened by your competence and resentful of my own failures. I humiliated you because I envied you. I endangered people because I valued ego over responsibility. There is no excuse." His voice shook on the last sentence. I believed he meant it. That didn't mean it was enough. Gregory slid a folder across the table. It contained new policies, external review systems, staff training structures, and a consulting proposal asking my firm to audit everything. Then Tate placed an envelope in front of me. Inside was a cashier's check covering the exact cost of my wedding, down to the cent. I almost laughed. "Do you think money repairs character?" I asked. "No," Tate said quietly. "But precision mattered to you. I wanted the apology to respect that." Then he placed a USB drive beside it. "Your original system files. Everything we could recover. They belong to you." I looked at the drive. 2 years of my mind compressed into plastic. And in that moment I understood something I hadn't before. Revenge had already happened. Not because I destroyed them. Because they had to face what they had become without me. I closed the folder. "I'll consider the audit," I said. "But my fee is triple your offer. Paid up front. Full transparency. No interference." Gregory nodded immediately. "And Tate," I added, turning to him, "you complete every training module my team assigns. Every beginner lesson. Every ethics seminar. Every regulatory exam. You will learn from the floor up." He nodded once. "Yes." I left the untouched check on the table. That night, while Karen and I ate takeout on our half-renovated kitchen floor, my phone buzzed with breaking news. The competitor firm that had taken Crescent's lost downtown contract was under investigation for bribery and fraudulent approvals. Karen looked at me. "That project is going back on the market." I nodded slowly, which meant Gregory's timing wasn't just remorse. It was a strategy. He needed credibility. He needed systems. He needed me. I barely slept. By sunrise, I had made my decision. I called Gregory at 7 a.m. "I'm not consulting for Crescent," I said. Silence. Then disappointment. "I understand. I'm proposing something else." He paused. "Go on." "A partnership. Separate companies. Joint bids. Crescent handles design and construction. My firm controls project management, compliance, and verification independently. That's highly unusual." So was firing someone on her wedding day. Another silence. "What about Tate?" he asked. "He works for you. Any project he touches goes through triple review. I'll need board approval." "You have 24 hours, I said. "After that, I pitched the city without you." 23 hours later, he called back. "Approved." 2 weeks later, we won the downtown revitalization contract together. The press called it revolutionary. Creative development paired with independent oversight. I called it common sense. Tate was assigned junior project coordinator, 5 levels below his former title. Every morning, my team sent him training modules. Every evening, he took exams. If he failed, he repeated them. He never complained. Months passed. The project surged ahead of schedule. Community trust slowly returned. Then one morning, I arrived early at the construction site and found Tate alone with a clipboard, checking concrete pour specs against approved plans. "You don't have to do that personally," I said. He straightened. "I know." "Then why are you?" "Because ignorance is expensive." I studied him, then asked the question I'd carried for over a year. "Why my wedding day?" He looked down. "Because I knew you were right about everything," he said. "Your systems. Your warnings. Your standards. My father respected you more than me, and I hated it. I wanted one moment where I could hurt you enough to feel bigger." I said nothing. "I thought it would make me powerful," he continued. "Instead, it exposed how small I was." There it was. The truth stripped bare. "You can't undo what you did," I said. "I know." "How?" "Consistency. Humility. Service. Learn what matters when no one is watching." He nodded. "I'm trying." "I know," I said. And I meant it. 6 months later, Gregory wanted to promote Tate to assistant project manager. He sent my former colleague Raina to gauge my reaction. I considered it, then said, "One condition." "What?" He handles the community presentation alone. The meeting drew skeptical residents who remembered delays, scandals, and broken promises. I attended quietly in the back row. Tate stepped to the podium visibly nervous. Then he said the one thing no old version of him would ever have said. Some of this project's past failure was my fault. I chose shortcuts over standards and damaged your trust. You deserved better. The room shifted. He answered hard questions honestly. When he didn't know something, he said so. He promised a follow-up and delivered it. No arrogance. No deflection. Only accountability. When it ended, residents applauded softly. Not for perfection. For honesty. The next morning I called Gregory. Promote him, I said. He's ready for responsibility. Not because he wants status, but because he understands its cost. Gregory exhaled in relief. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said. Thank the version of him who did the work. The downtown project finished under budget and ahead of schedule. Parks reopened. Storefronts filled. Housing units welcomed families. A neglected district became alive again. My consulting firm expanded statewide. Then nationally. Crescent rebuilt its reputation slowly, properly, painfully. Karen and I finished renovating our house. On the anniversary of our wedding, we walked past the completed downtown plaza at sunset. Children played near fountains. Couples sat on benches. Musicians performed in the square. All of it built where corruption had nearly buried the possibility. Karen squeezed my hand. Are you happy with how it ended? I thought carefully. Happy isn't the word. No. No, I smiled. Grateful is closer. For what? For learning that some endings are better than revenge. My phone buzzed. A message from Tate. Thank you for supporting the promotion. I won't let you down. Asterisk asterisk. Karen raised an eyebrow. You replying? I thought for a moment then typed. Make sure you don't. Some gifts can't be returned. Asterisk asterisk. I hit send and laughed softly. Exactly 1 year earlier, he had texted me his gift. Now I returned one of my own. Not cruelty. Expectation. Some people believe strength means crushing those who wronged you. Burning their world down because they tried to burn yours. Maybe sometimes it does. But I learned something different. Real power is standing in the ashes of what tried to destroy you. And building something so solid that even your enemies must live by its standards. I could have spent my life trying to punish Tate Lawson. Instead, I made him learn integrity. I could have destroyed Gregory Lawson's company. Instead, I forced it to become worthy of surviving. I could have let one hateful text define my wedding day forever. Instead, it became the first step toward everything better that followed. So no, I didn't get even. I got ahead. And sometimes that is the most satisfying victory of all.